And a very good Monday afternoon to you from the University of Arizona's campus, Camp Student Radio, The Rundown, David Mooradian, joined by Hazi Richardson. Hazi, let's update the folks on what your official title is now. So I know you got a little bit of a promotion here with the Daily Wildcat. What is your title and what are you working on before we get into the Super Bowl and everything else?
So a lot of the stuff that I'm working on is a lot with the men's basketball team.
Yep, that's a good. That's not a bad assignment to have this year with the way things are going.
Not at all.
All right.
It's a lot with the men's basketball team. My title is still just Daily Wildcat writer,
Okay.
but I'm the main Daily Wildcat men's basketball sports.
By the way, if you just went with Daily Cat and kept rolling, I think people would have just assumed that was the name of your job and something that people actually say. I was kind of thinking that in the back of my mind, but nonetheless, I've seen what you put out for the Daily Wildcat on the dailywildcat.com. You're doing great work, but by the way, you have no shortage of material to work with this year with the basketball team that's 23-0. Now, I have news for you. It's 5:05 here in Arizona. We're going to get to the basketball game. Arizona traveling to Lawrence, Kansas, a very much awaited, anticipated game against the Jayhawks. We're going to get there at 5:30, bottom of the hour. It's going to be all about the number 1 Cats taking on a Kansas team that's probably, I haven't even checked, probably 9? In the top 10. Yeah, number 9 now. They came into the week 11th, and they continue to perform. They have just 1 loss at home this year. They haven't lost a conference game at home this season. Their 1 home loss was against UConn months ago in non-conference play, and they're playing much better than they were then, probably with what we saw from UConn on Friday. If the two of them played again in Kansas, you'd have to think the Jayhawks probably would win this time. But we're going to get into all of that at 5:30. We have to start with the Super Bowl, of course, and I'm going to get into 2 things. We can summarize the game, and we will do that. But I want to start here, Hazi, and then I want you to react with what I'm going to say, because right now the Super Bowl is this boiling hot cup of soup, right? It's steaming. There's all this heat in the room, and I'm going to drop a big ice cube right into the cup, right? I'm going to cool it off, and then I want to see if you like it a little bit colder or if you'd rather have it scalding hot to where your tongue, you can't even feel it. Okay, so you tell me what your preference is. I think we are at the peak of the Super Bowl right now. If I walked up to you, and this was the year 1960, and I said, look, the World Series is going to be not a big deal in 20, 30 years, you would look at me and say, you're crazy, and I don't want you to come near my family again because I'm worried about what goes on in your brain because you are disillusioned from reality. Stay away. And the truth of the matter is the World Series now is really not a substantial cultural fixture in the U.S. anymore. It just isn't. For better or for worse, you can love baseball. It just is not. The Super Bowl absolutely is. It is a spectacle. It's a holiday. It's a reason for people to get together. And the reason I say this is the value of the Super Bowl, what is being offered, the product, Hazi, is diminishing by the year. And yeah, it was a boring game, and I don't want to overreact. For 2 straight years, we've had duds of games. Now, I don't say it was a boring game because it was a defensive game. The defense is not the issue. It was a boring game because it was non-competitive. There was never a moment where the New England Patriots looked like they could win that game. That's the boring part. There was no drama. The Seattle Seahawks were the Super Bowl champions virtually the minute they took the field, it looked like. There was nothing to tell you otherwise. So that's the one issue. Aside from the game, the whole entire event has nothing to do with football, which is fine, right? That's what the Super Bowl is. But more so, Hazi, it has become a commercial fest. The commercial slots are $8 to $10 million for 1 minute. I mean, you're talking about so much money. And yeah, NBC is going out of their way to take commercial breaks every step of the game, right? You have a kickoff, commercial break, and then when the offense takes the field, you play. That drive ends, you go to commercial. And if, God forbid, they score, they'll double dip. I mean, if you have a touchdown, they'll go after the kickoff, they'll go before the kickoff. It doesn't matter. And I think I saw something, this isn't an official report yet, almost an hour of the broadcast was commercials. So I think the product here is really an issue. Here's the other thing. Now, there's a lot of talk about the economy and the stock market had a terrific week, but there's a lot of people, there's a lot of wealthy people. There's also a good share of football viewers that don't have this major disposable income, and you're forcing them to sit through a bunch of commercials for things that they frankly can't afford. And it's not like we're talking about the Masters here, Hazi, where generally the people watching the Masters, just speaking off the numbers, are pretty affluent, and they can afford whatever is being advertised to them. You're talking about a very working-class audience that I think is going to realize the product is terrible, it's all commercials, and they can't even afford what's being marketed to them. So I think there could be a real issue here. I think we're going to talk about 20, 30 years from now, the Super Bowl being a thing of the past. And, remember when everybody used to watch the Super Bowl. That's what I was thinking last night. I was so bored during the game, during the commercials, whatever it may be, that I think that it's running its course. I think this is really going to be a thing of the past soon. Do you hear what I'm saying? Am I making sense?
Absolutely. And
right.
and because my thing with this, and I don't want to take this away from the NFL, but for just a moment, right?
Yeah.
If you look back on last year's All-Star game, right, where they brought in the whole tournament format and everything like that, I like to say good concept of a good idea, terrible execution.
You're talking about the All-Star game for what sport?
The NBA.
Okay.
That you had.
I thought you were. I just want to clarify that.
You had like the Rising Stars Challenge.
Yeah.
Then that team would move in to the All-Star game. Great concept, bad execution. Why bad execution? Just like you said, David, an hour of commercials for the Super Bowl. Why?
It's brutal.
And I'm sorry. Yes, I'm not. I'm one of those people where I could sit there and say I'm not watching the game to see what color Gatorade is because of what bet I put in, or what the coin toss is going to be. I'm here to watch the two best teams in the NFL this year square off in the game that should be the pinnacle, that should be the end all be all for the year, and should feel like this game means something.
Yeah.
To me, and yes, the game was boring, and sure, you could say Seattle had it by halftime, whatever. But when you have people so bored that you're out of their minds that they're counting how many AI commercials there are, it's a problem.
It is a problem.
It is an extreme issue.
Well, here's the other issue. Here's the other thing about the NFL scheduling, right? You have this 2-week break between the conference championships and the Super Bowl. And Hazi, and maybe we've got some bias because we're on campus. Our school is currently number 1. We both follow them for student media, so we're very much immersed in the basketball team. Having said that, and I think we're both Knicks fans too, so we've got a lot going in that regard. I believe that in the 2 weeks from the conference championship to the Super Bowl, I stopped caring about football. Like, to me, the football season ends when the conference championship games are over, and I start really getting into college basketball. I start following the NBA. I'll even talk about the Australian Open. The professional golf gets started. NFL is way in the back, and you still have this one more game to go, but I'm just not that focused on it. And to me, it's not something that I get excited for, and I don't think they're going to change the scheduling, of course, but to me, the football season ends when the conference championship game's over, and that's a great day. That, to me, is my Super Bowl Sunday. You've got 2 really good games back-to-back. This year, they were both really competitive, and that, to me, really outshines the Super Bowl by a great margin.
And you want to know what the problem now, and especially with those 2 weeks is, and I'd like to think before the year 2018, maybe even before 2017, you can argue.
Yeah.
The Pro Bowl used to be a game.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl doesn't exist anymore.
It's now just the skills challenge, the Pro Bowl game. It wasn't even played on a Sunday this year.
No,
it was
I
played
didn't
on
even
a
know
Tuesday.
that. I've never watched the Pro Bowl, so maybe I'm not the right person to weigh in on this. I know there's been a major drop-off, but it's not like it was great 10 years ago. Certainly better than what we have now.
It wasn't, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like as bad as it is now. Like even 10 years ago, but what they did 10 years ago was they mixed it up. They brought in these like older Hall of Famer guys to be captains, to do things, to draft players based on the year that they had. Now, if you want to hear it from my dad's way, my dad thinks the Pro Bowl should go back to being played after the Super Bowl. That way you can still have the Super Bowl participants be in it. Yeah. But the problem is, and I think it's also in the NBA too, which is the grand scheme of just all the big problems with championship weekends and all-star weekends, is the players don't care anymore.
No, that is the number one thing. Why am I going to watch something that the players on the court or the field don't care about? I mean, that's never going to happen.
The highlight of this year's Pro Bowl games or whatever was Micah Parsons scooting around on his little scooter with his torn ACL.
I didn't even know. I didn't even see one Pro Bowl related thing. Now, the one way it could be saved, and this is a whole nother discussion, but I'm glad we're going down the road. The one way you can start to save these skills games and Pro Bowls, All-Star games, whatever it is you have to look at what baseball is doing. So the World Baseball Classic in March has been a nothing burger really for a long time, up until about 2 years ago. Now it's got major life, which I'm surprised to see, but it's got this national component to it, right? So the NBA is trying the world against Team USA, right? So will players treat that seriously, or is it going to be another joke? That remains to be seen. But at least they're trying to say, hey, World Baseball Classic is an exhibition. It means nothing. But baseball players are risking injury, and some of them are getting injured, right? I think Edwin Diaz, famously the closer for the Mets, he ended his season a few years ago at the World Baseball Classic. So they're at least risking injury in those games, for better or for worse. That's just a fact. So will the NBA, the NHL, they capitalized on it last year. Remember, they did the Four Nations face-off, and that was a huge success, much better than an All-Star game. So will these national components swoop in and save it, or is it gone by the wayside? That remains to be seen. Obviously, the NFL can't do that because the NFL's only played in the United States.
My thing with that is just, it's not so much how you do the game that matters, but I think it's just how you get to the players to care that matters. Because the thing about the WBC is players care about, because you're representing your country.
Right. You
are representing your country, your flag, your wherever you are internationally.
And that's what we have to see with the NBA stuff, is does that have that effect this year, U.S. against the world? What do you think?
See, my thing is this, right? It can be U.S. versus the world. It could be everybody doing every own country. But if the players aren't putting in the effort, like LeBron sat out last year. Mm-hmm. At that point, I feel like, all right, everybody was like, all right, whatever. But then it's like nobody. The thing with the All-Star game is, sure, they didn't try for 3 quarters for years, but that fourth quarter,
right?
You knew everybody was locked in. They're playing defense. They're trying to win this game now. Whereas like in years past, where like these past years, it's like, I think the one year they went back to East versus West, they put up 211 points.
Yeah.
As a single team. So it's like you it's not so much the format that I think that's an issue. It's just getting the players to, give a crap again.
Well, so just to in a nutshell summarize my point. We've seen the country element save some of these other exhibitions, and the NBA is trying it. Whether or not the players care, that remains to be seen. But I think the only way they would care, Hazi, is the country element, USA against the world. So we'll see. You have to applaud the NBA for trying. It does feel to me like it's a lost cause. And I'm telling you, I think pretty soon the Super Bowl is going to be – obviously it matters because the teams are playing for a championship. But I have to say, you have these big gaps between the conference championship, the Super Bowl. The other underlying theme that is here, and not tipping my hand politically, I'm not going to opine on where I fall in anything. You can leave that to your own imagination. Our generation and the generation younger than us will see, and even millennials – they don't really love capitalism, and they don't love this consumerism that is about. Socialism is becoming a lot more popular. I'm not giving an opinion one way or another. These are facts. You can look at polls. I saw a poll very recently. I think the New York Times was giving it life. 40% of people that are 18 to 29 have a neutral or favorable view of socialism. What does this have to do with the Super Bowl? Well, the Super Bowl in its essence is the ultimate consumerist entity, right? It's all about the commercials. It's one big advertisement. That is exactly what it is. So you have this younger generation that is kind of revolting against this, or doesn't like it, or there's maybe some skepticism to it. I just don't think it's going to be a winning model going forward. I really do believe that it's going to be like Las Vegas. The younger generation, Gen Z, millennials, aren't supporting Las Vegas. That's not kind of the lifestyle they live. And I think the ideals that younger people have is not going to be suitable for the Super Bowl. I'm making a prediction. We'll see in a decade or two if I end up being right. But that's kind of what I'm basing it off of.
And I don't think that's a bad take at all, for the simple reason that it's just like, the thing, like, it didn't feel as advertisements, I guess, when we were growing up. Because I guess it was stuff that we more cared about.
Well, it's gotten worse. I think it's gotten worse.
Because I'm sorry, I don't want to see 9AI ads.
Yeah.
Where's the Doritos commercials? Yeah. Where's the Pepsi commercials?
The commercials are getting worse. That's the first thing. And it's the volume of them. I mean, there's just more and more. If the price is going to continue to go up, the other issue that we're getting around, and you could really break this into a powder, and maybe an hour is not enough to talk about this. When it comes to advertising, there is only one guarantee in the world for where you will have this kind of audience, and it's the Super Bowl. That's why the values are so high. Think about how few people watch live TV anymore. Nobody watches CBS at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. Am I wrong?
No,
I mean, nobody.
Not at all.
Right? Netflix, if you're paying for Netflix, there's no commercials. If you're paying for the premium entity of it, the most expensive version, there are no commercials on Netflix. So people are only interacting with commercials on their phone, on social media, and they just blow right by them. They're not looking at them. They're just moving on through. The Super Bowl, you're stuck. You have to watch them. It's the only place where really you watch commercials, if you're watching football. So you've got this major audience, And so they are going to jam in as many commercials as possible. That wasn't the case 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you were watching commercials. People were watching commercials all the time. 2026, it's only the Super Bowl. That's why you're seeing an hour of the game being dedicated to it. And I do think ultimately it's going to destroy the product and people are going to stop watching. I think the numbers are going to go down.
I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment because the thing about it is just like the and it's kind of like what I said before. You were watching the commercials, but the commercials weren't becoming like the most important.
Right. It was a sideshow.
It was right.
Yesterday it was the main character.
Like you get like the funny puppy monkey baby Doritos commercial. This year you've got this AI is helping you do this, and now this one's helping you do this.
Yeah.
What does this have to? And not to say the other ones didn't have anything to do with the game either, but why are we taking so much time to show this compared to the game?
Yeah. And the game was a dud, and there's nothing the NFL can do about that. And again, it's not a dud because it was defensive. That can be fine. It wasn't competitive. New England was never going to win, and we probably should break down the game. It is a sports show. Here's what I saw. New England's offensive line, and we have to give Ethan is not here. Ethan was on the show Friday. He predicted the Seahawks would win 24-22, and he said the main reason they were going to win the game was because their defense had a distinct advantage over New England's offensive line. That was the money take. I mean, he hit the nail right on the head. And he said that. And I said, well, Ethan, say what you will. I was the fool in this case. I was the idiot. I said, New England's offensive line, you're not giving them a lot of respect. They were 14-3 with a second-year quarterback. Their line must be pretty good. He said, I'm telling you, I really don't think so. And he was absolutely right. Their offensive line did not give them a chance to win. Their defense kept them in it for 3 quarters. Very impressive because when you have an offense, Hazi, and you know this well, when you have an offense that can't get a first down, it makes playing defense so much harder. You're on the field a great deal. New England punted more than they had first downs in the first half. They had 5 punts, 4 first downs. So think about how much the defense was on the field, and still, in the fourth quarter, this was a 9 or a 12-0 game. They were right in it.
And the thing with New England was this, and I don't want to bring up time of possession because I don't know the exact numbers yet, but I know for a fact they were dominating.
Well, I'll let you get into what you're going to say. The overall statistics are incredibly misleading because with about 9 minutes left to go, the game was over, and then the Patriots started moving the ball and racking up stats, which are completely fake. Now, go ahead.
My thing with this, yes, the Patriots went 14-3. However, 14 of the 17 coaches that they played are now elsewhere.
That's
Mike
really
Tomlin gone. John Harbaugh, he's in New York now.
Yep.
Mike McDaniel gone. So that's 6 games automatically right there.
Sean McDermott, that's another 8 games that's gone right there.
Yep. So it's just they play coaches who got fired, right? Then you look in and then you're like, okay, well maybe they did something in the playoffs. You look at their playoff run, right? Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Mm-hmm. The Chargers O-line was
They played very well against the Chargers. Yeah, I think so. Anyway,
the O-line was very beat up. It wasn't the best Chargers that C.J. Stroud gave them the division. 5 turnovers. C.J. Stroud gave them the divisional.
And then it was Stidham.
And then it was Jarrett Stidham instead of Bo Nix. So then they get to the Super Bowl. To me, they played the defense. Christian Gonzalez.
What a star he is.
Christian Gonzalez.
If by some miracle the Patriots won that game, he would have been your Super Bowl MVP.
Because, my God, anytime Sam Darnold was testing him one-on-one, and every time he rose to the occasion.
He should. I mean, I got to the point where I was saying, why are they even throwing at him? They should have given him the Darrelle Revis treatment. Wherever he is, I'm just going to look at the other half of the field.
You cannot throw the ball there. And especially because there was, I believe, the one in the first half where it was almost a JSN touchdown. Yeah. He dives out and almost gets the pick.
Right.
So Christian Gonzalez keeps them in the game for as long as he can. The problem then became, okay, well, what's going on with New England's offense? Couldn't get the run game going.
Nope. Couldn't protect the quarterback. And the quarterback, when he did have protection, was completely ineffective.
The rare chances, and I think, and I hate to give him credit for this, Chris Collinsworth said it best last night.
Yeah.
The rare chances that New England had couldn't take advantage of it.
Nope.
Whether it was whether it was just passes that were sailed, passes that just didn't hit the mark, they just were not taking advantage of it. And then, of course, when your QB's getting sacked 6 times, it's hard for him to stay up to do anything.
Well, there was no question that Drake May's confidence was rattled. Now, whether the moment was too big, the offensive line play was affecting him, probably a mixture of the two. Bottom line is, he did not perform. And you said it very well. Collinsworth said it well. The chances they had, they didn't capitalize. But there weren't that many chances. The offensive line didn't give them much of a chance. And some people are criticizing Josh McDaniels. I happen to think he's a brilliant offensive coordinator. He's gotten the Patriots to numerous Super Bowls. And I don't think that John Madden or Vince Lombardi or anybody could have schematically won that game for the Patriots with the way their offensive line played. They just did not have the numbers out there.
Has won Super Bowls, so let's not act like it was all his fault.
No, I don't think he had an answer.
How much can you really do when you've got dudes who are getting pushed back into your QB?
Yep.
What can you do with that?
I don't think anything.
And that's the thing. Like, because even the touchdown that they had, Drake May is under pressure. The 2 touchdowns they had all night, the one to Mac Hollins, the one to Romandre, which was a great catch by Stevenson, just pressure in his they're in his face all night long. And yeah, they were in Darnold's face too, but the difference is Darnold had a little bit more time. He had just the 0.5 second more of time to where he can at least find his guy and at least step into it more than Drake May could.
Now, say what you will about Sam Darnold, okay? Now, some people aren't giving him a lot of credit. Seattle won because of their defense, and that's all true. Sam Darnold was given a very basic game plan. Whether this was before the game started or at halftime, I'm not sure. But it is incredibly obvious that the game plan was, hey, let's get the ball to our stars here. If you can involve Smith and Jigba, that's fine. If you can't, that's okay too. Walker, just hand the ball off. And here's the most important thing, in all caps, bold letters, italicized, no turnovers. No turnovers. And Sam Darnold didn't turn the ball over. He played the exact kind of quarterbacking that Seattle needed, and they won the game convincingly. So you can't really say, oh, well, Sam Darnold, he's not a great quarterback, or he's no good, or they didn't need him. We don't know. Here's what we do know. The real Super Bowl was 2 weeks before between the Rams and the Seahawks. Whoever won that game was going to win the Super Bowl. Now, we could say that hindsight is 2020. That is now very obvious. The Rams and the Seahawks was the Super Bowl. In that game, Sam Darnold was absolutely brilliant. He played terrific, and he had to go out and score 34 points, and they did. So you can't hold it against Darnold that he didn't need to be exceptional. Now, say what you will. If it was Steve Young playing quarterback for the Seahawks, and we saw this in the 90s, the 49ers, they win those games by 50, and they did. They had some major blowouts, or Joe Montana, right? If there was great quarterback play for Seattle, they would have won that game by 50. But Sam Darnold playing conservatively and delivering a convincing victory should absolutely not be counting against him, and I think he actually deserves a lot of credit.
So a couple months ago, you had asked me who were my big power rankings for, and I had put Sam Darnold and the Seahawks in last. Sam Darnold, this is my public apology to you.
Yeah, right.
So, because guess what? If we're only talking about last night.
So you're saying you thought they were going to be the 32nd best team in the NFL?
No. Remember, we had done the top 4, and it was Seahawks, Packers, I think Rams, and Eagles at the time.
Okay.
And I put the Seahawks
I see.
at
4th. Yeah.
And so this is my public apology to Sam Darnold.
Right.
Because if you want to just talk about last night, you did your job. You were a game manager. You had 2 touchdowns. Now, how much of that was K9 and how much of that was you? You can debate that with whoever you want.
Right.
But if you just want to look at the playoffs alone, the 2 against San Francisco, and then the absolute masterclass that he had with LA. Because the biggest thing about that Rams game we knew heading into it was whoever was going to win the turnover or whoever was just going to commit less mistakes was going to win that game. And not only did Sam Darnold commit less mistakes, it felt like almost every ball that he threw was either going to go to a Seahawks receiver or no one. It felt like the needle was being thread every time. And you saw it in that late touchdown that he got to Smith and Jigba late in that game. So everybody can sit there. Everybody's going to have their own opinions. To me, this was a team win. This was a team playoffs for Seattle because Darnold doesn't get it done without Walker.
No.
Walker doesn't get it done without Smith and Jigba. The offense doesn't get it done without the dark side defense. Everything just came together, and it also speaks to the coaching of Mike McDonald.
Right.
I'm sorry. Because to bring this team from where it was a couple of years ago, and yeah, they made the playoffs a couple of years ago with Geno Smith, but
they were not in a good spot. They were directionless, is I think the best word to describe where they were.
And then you were 8-9 last year. Everybody looked at you a little weird when you brought in Sam Darnold. Then you bring in 30 guys that was New England. But you bring in these other guys like DeMarcus Lawrence and guys who are a little bit or haven't been on teams that have made the playoffs but haven't done anything. You bring in these guys and then you sit there and you say, okay, I'm gonna essentially come up with a game plan where, because K9 actually had a great season, but because Sam Darnold threw the ball so much throughout the year, you kind of forgot that they had a Charbonnet and a Kenneth Walker back there. So overall, I think it just speaks to the whole organization of Seattle, because Mike McDonald's coaching, yes, but the boys, everybody believing in everybody else.
Yeah, here's the main things that Mike McDonald did that ultimately led to the Seattle Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. The first thing is he had a new offensive coordinator this year in Clint Kubiak, and that was a money hire, right? I mean, now he's going to be the coach of the Raiders. I heard this will be his third offensive coordinator now in 3 years. So that there's been some turnover there. He parted ways with his offensive coordinator after last year and really found the right guy, apparently. Second thing is he landed on his feet with Sam Darnold after Geno Smith left. That worked out tremendously well. And they got him on a bargain. He's making $30 million a year, which quarterback-wise, that's nothing. And the final thing is he absolutely maximized and out-schemed teams when he was managing his defense. He's a defensive coach. He found the right coordinator. He found the right quarterback. Now that's out of his hands. He's a defensive guy. He got the absolute maximum out of his defense. His side of the ball could not be performing any better with what they have. So, and he understands the personnel he has. The strength of that team is in their secondary, much like it was 10 years ago, whether it be Witherspoon, Woolen, whoever you want to talk about. The strength is in their secondary, and they play like it, and he has really maximized the team. They have a clear identity. They play great defense, and their quarterback really can do what they need him to do, depending on what the game plan is. And it's a really successful formula that they've created, and you have to give him a lot of credit. So Seattle has an infrastructure that's proven, and it delivered once again yesterday.
To me, the whole team throughout the playoffs committed one mistake, and it wasn't even the whole team. It was Tariq Woolen and that penalty against LA that gave them
almost cost them the game.
And to me, I was like, if they lose that game,
there you go.
There you go. But then what did they do? They all sat down. They calmed down.
Yep.
And you could kind of see it on the Patriots bench. You saw multiple people, whether it was Mike Vrabel, whether it was the own lineman, just trying to settle Drake May down, and he just couldn't do it throughout the night.
No, he couldn't. Now, here's the final thought on the Super Bowl. Nobody had Seattle going anywhere this year, and they won the Super Bowl. Nobody had the Patriots going anywhere. It'd be really curious to see what the outlook looks like next year. How much credit do you give the Patriots? Do you think they're going to be a playoff team? They've got to play a first-place schedule. I still believe that what they have is legitimate. Now, certainly, they're not going to go 14-3, I don't think, against a first-place schedule. And you've got Seattle. Now the arrow is on your back. They were an under-the-radar team, despite the fact that they were a 1 seed this year. And it'll be really interesting to see how they follow that up. And will Sam Darnold have another championship season with the expectations placed on his shoulders? Will he be able to be under the radar and a sneaky quarterback? It's going to be fascinating, really, to see how both of those teams respond next year. Now, my final thought on the Super Bowl and what the last thing we do before we get to the Arizona basketball game, which I said we'd get to at 5:30. We're going to be a few minutes behind, Hazi. Is there was a lot of discourse about the halftime show, and it became very political. Not that Bad Bunny was political. He was incredibly apolitical, actually. But regardless, there were strong opinions on each side. Now, the one thing I have to say, it goes back to my original take, and then I'll open the floor for Hazi to give his opinion on the show. If you found yourself disliking the halftime show, then what you really have to ask yourself is, are you a capitalist? And again, I'm not tipping my hand on anything, but just if you found yourself saying, I didn't like the halftime show, ask yourself this question. Do you believe in capitalism? If your answer is yes, those two answers, they contradict themselves. Because the NFL, I hate to break it to you, Hazi, and everybody who really loved the halftime show, the NFL doesn't care about Latino communities. They don't care about doing the right thing. They care about what is going to make that halftime show the most watched halftime show so they can maximize their money. That is it. If you think they've got any other concern, you're gravely mistaken. And they did an analysis. I can tell you, they researched this decision for months. And they settled on Bad Bunny, and they were right, because I saw 130 million people were watching NBC for the halftime show. 130 million. And there's 45 million people in this country that speak Spanish. Okay, that's a big number. That's more than 10% of the country that speaks Spanish. And he has an international following. The other thing about the halftime show, Hazi, and then you jump right in, is you've got the football fan. You're watching. I'm watching. Whoever's doing the halftime show, doesn't matter. You may watch it and enjoy it, but we're going to watch the game no matter what, at least for now. Yes. I think that may change moving forward. But we're watching the game. They need to bring people in who aren't going to watch the game but want to watch Bad Bunny. And that's what you do with him. If you have Metallica play, somebody said they're from San Francisco, Everybody that likes Metallica likes the NFL.
NFL.
So it doesn't accomplish anything. So they made a business decision. It was gravely rewarded. They were terrific in terms of their revenue and their finances, and they won on the choice. So if you don't like it, then you don't like capitalism. That's what they did. Now, my actual opinion on the show, I didn't know Bad Bunny going in. It seemed like it was entertaining. I'm usually not too big on the halftime shows as it is. This one wasn't much different. People are happy with it. I'm happy. It's not for me. Any year. Doesn't matter who's performing. I'm a football fan. If Paul McCartney's going to do the halftime show, we can have a conversation. But I don't expect that to happen anytime soon. So it is what it is. People are happy. I'm happy. Go ahead.
So, little fact about me. When I was getting, dropped off to school and stuff, one of the biggest things that I was listening to with my sister was Bad Bunny.
Okay.
So
you're a fan.
I've been a fan really since I was 15.
Okay.
So when I heard he was doing it, even before the political storm came in, I was like, wow, I'm really excited. And then it was kind of like the message that stuck with me. And I do agree with you that if you say that you don't like capitalism but you like the halftime show,
it makes no
either
sense.
Or,
yeah,
you're contradicting yourself. Because fact of the matter is, you're not wrong at all.
Yeah.
They use this, and especially because the amount of tweets, Instagram posts saying, okay, it's time for the Benito Bowl. It's time for the Bad Bunny Bowl. And listen, I get it. If it's not your cup of tea, it's not your cup of tea. I'm not going to sit there and give an opinion on that or say one thing or the other. But to me, I loved it. But I also know, listen, the NFL isn't dumb. Whoever chose it, whether it was
Roger Goodell
or whoever higher up than him chose it, they're not dumb. They knew this was going to bring in more. It brought in 145 million people.
I just pulled up the number. The estimates are anywhere from 135 to 145, and it's an international audience, right? It's outside the U.S. and it's people that aren't watching the game. It is a no-brainer for the NFL from a business perspective.
Now, because in Bad Bunny's message heading into it was, oh, the world will dance. Yep. And again, the NFL, there are a lot of things, but they're not stupid.
Nope.
They don't care if you dance. They care if you watch.
Yep.
They care for how long you watched it for.
Mm-hmm.
They care if, you posted it online so that they can get more money out of that as well.
And the discourse is good. The debate, the NFL makes more money when people talk about how they didn't like it, they did like it, because you're talking about it, and that discussion is advertisement, and then more people go to talk about it and watch it, and it's a circle. We've got a cycle here. So all of it is working to the NFL's benefit, whether you like it or not.
So I grew up with sisters, so one of the shows that my sisters used to watch was America's Next Top Model.
Okay.
When Tyra Banks would say America's Next Top Model, she got, I believe, an extra $50K, $100K, like whenever she would just say that phrase.
Yep.
When more people are talking about it, it brings in more revenue,
a great point.
Brings in more streams, which brings in more money.
It's a circle. Yeah, it's a cycle.
So it's all just a cycle for them. Do I like the fact that it was Bad Bunny and Kendrick back-to-back years? Absolutely. Do I think the NFL cared that we liked that it was Bad Bunny and Kendrick back-to-back years? Yeah. Absolutely not.
So very quickly, your actual opinion on the show, because I said I am in no position to analyze whether it was good or bad. People ask me what I thought. I'm like, you don't want to know because I don't know anything. It's pixels on the screen. To me, if you want me to break down the game, where to start, right? I will go into that. I can't tell you if it was good or bad because don't know what I'm talking about.
I thought it was very great. I thought it was great because, and especially as a kid from the Caribbean, you bringing in all these Caribbean countries and naming them, each and every single one spoke volumes.
And we said this before the show. Somebody said, well, how about we have an American perform? I hate to break it to you. Bad Bunny was born with a U.S. passport because he's from Puerto Rico, which is owned by the United States.
So, in the case that some of you might not know this, and if some of you really didn't know this, that's fine.
Yeah.
But Puerto Rico is an American territory.
Yep.
Thus, Puerto Rican citizens are given American passports.
Right. He's an American citizen.
Now, and again, if you're choosing to be, say, ignorance is bliss, and you didn't want to know it, fine. I'm not going to give an opinion on that, neither here nor there. But when you guys say he's not an American citizen, or
it's just incorrect.
That is, it's just wrong because if you do Google it, he is a citizen of America
and was born. He's a naturalized citizen. He's not an immigrant. And say which this is a pro-immigrant show, but he's born in the U.S. I mean, he didn't even immigrate to the United States. He was a naturalized citizen.
and let's say oh well, he speaks Spanish, he's Puerto Rican. Yes, but the man also grew up in New York City.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's the whole. He was in New York City. He performed, and yes, he performs on these big stages and stuff like that. But he's also performed in New York City subway stations, if you've seen those videos. So it's just to sit there and say you guys wanted a more American halftime show when there was an American performing it's a little.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, here's the other funny thing. The Super Bowl this year was in San Francisco. The Super Bowl next year is in Los Angeles. Now, people are talking about the language component of it. The show is in Spanish. The U.S. is predominantly an English-speaking country, despite the fact that the United States does not have an official language. The U.S. doesn't have an official religion. It does not have an official language. There are some majorities, and some are more popular than others, but it does not endorse as a country either of the two. That is a fact, okay? San Francisco, Los Angeles. Those are not English words, right? Los Angeles, City of Angels. That's where the Super Bowl is going to be next year. So the city name is in Spanish. Whether you like it or not, there's almost 50 million people here whose first language is Spanish, and it has terrific influence in the country. So, it is what it is. That's, of course, you're going to eventually have parts of media that are going to represent that and work towards it. That's just the nature of the demographics of this country.
And to people who listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do here nor there, because what you choose to do with your life is your business.
Yeah.
But to me, you can either do one of two things. You can choose not to listen to it. You can choose not to listen to it. Go outside. Don't put it on. Put on something else while the halftime show is on.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or you can try to learn about the culture. Learn about the people that you're listening to, so that, you're just not sitting there saying, well, I don't know what he's saying, so why should I care?
Yeah.
Learn about the culture.
And you know what? If you watch it and you didn't like it, that's the way it is. You're not
that's your prerogative. Right. That's
nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what is important is that the facts. All I'm doing here is everything I'm saying is a fact. I'm really not giving an opinion at all. And some facts people don't like, but they're still true. And the facts of the matter are, Super Bowl is going to be in Los Angeles next year. That is Spanish for the City of Angels. He's a U.S. citizen. There's 50 million people that speak Spanish, and the NFL made a business decision, and they had roughly 140 million people watch the halftime show. So if you don't like them making a business decision, then you're not a capitalist. And if you're not a capitalist, then at least you're consistent on that, which, there you go. All right, we got to move on. Arizona's got a big game tonight, Hazi.
Yes.
I happen to think they're going to win the game. Now, we'll get into why and how in a few moments. But let's just talk about what's at stake first. And actually, there's not that much at stake, believe it or not. And the reason I say that is the basketball team already has their longest winning streak in program history, 23. They have their best start to a season ever, 23-0. And they're tied for the longest winning streak / best start to a Big 12 team ever with 23-0. So they've already checked a lot of boxes here.
I believe that, yeah. So the thing with our team is, and this is my hot take, is that maybe we do need to lose one so that the pressure's off.
I've heard that, and I want to respond to that. You want to do that now, or you want to save that?
I think we should save that.
Okay, we'll save that. We'll circle back to that discussion.
I don't think tonight is the night.
I agree with you. I think if they're going to get tripped up, it might be at Houston. I think that they're better than Kansas, and they're favored by 2.5 points on the road, which tells you in a neutral site, the experts think Arizona is about 5 to 6 points better than the Jayhawks.
And so here's my thing with us and the Jayhawks, because we went in there last year. I don't think we won last year when we went in there, but we went in there last year. It was a different team. This team now, to me, the team last year, no matter what, we didn't have a constant identity. There were games where we might have shot more threes, and then there were games that we might have taken it to the paint more. This team knows their strengths and knows what they're good, and sticks to what they know and sticks to what has gotten them to the dance, which is get inside, get the rock to the paint, offensive rebounds, defensive rebounds. I'm going to beat you on the rebounds. I'm going to beat you in assists. But most importantly, I'm not going to take three. I'm just going to keep being physical and getting my buckets at the paint. So to me, the biggest thing is this. I don't see it happening with us in Kansas this year, because this is obviously not the same Kansas team as years past. And everybody's like, oh, well, they're 30-0 at home against ranked schools or whatever. And again, that's great. But again, this Arizona team, and Tommy Lloyd and I believe Jaden Bradley and Anthony Del Rosso said it best. Sometimes you forget that Koa Pete and Braden Berry's are freshmen.
Yeah,
with the way they carry themselves, with the way their game is, you do forget that these boys are freshmen.
And they are. Well, by the way, how about just the way they play? And they're incredibly mature, but they certainly don't play like 18, 19-year-olds who are new to this level. And by the way, college sports have never been closer to professional sports than they are right now. The jump that they're making is even more impressive when you consider that they're really not playing a college sport. This is a minor league professional sport with budgets and players who are now staying, despite the fact that they could be on NBA players. So it is really remarkable. I'm glad you made that point, Hazi, because it's very impressive. Now, Kansas is 8-2 in conference play this year. I told you they haven't lost a conference game at home all season, and yet I do have some confidence that Arizona will be able to deliver the victory, in part because of what I've been saying about Arizona all year, which is this, Hazi. It doesn't really matter if a few players have an off game because they're so deep, they can beat you so many different ways.
That's the thing.
I said one of the biggest myths in sports is that a team has to have a clear identity, and this is who we are. And we're in football, we run the ball and we play great defense, and that's the way it is, and that's all right, right? That's foolish. And I'll tell you why it's foolish. Look at the Seattle Seahawks, who just won the Super Bowl yesterday. The NFC Championship game, they threw the ball. Their defense was okay, and they won 34-27. 2 weeks later, was that their identity?
No, they ran the ball.
It wasn't even close to their identity, because a true great team can beat you a multitude of ways and can adapt based on the opponent. And I do believe that's true for Arizona, and I'm going to back it up with a few things here. Arizona has 7 different players who have had 20-point games this year. So you could have 3 guys off nights, sit them down, they're just not feeling it, the atmosphere is too much, they were out too late last night, whatever it may be. There's still 4 more guys on the team that at some point this year have had 20-point games. And that's in college where the game's 8 minutes shorter, and they haven't really played that. They're 23-0. There's not that many games.
So the thing is that makes college so much different from the NBA is it's not quarters. You don't get as many breaks because you're playing 2 halves.
A 20-point game in college is a lot.
And that's the thing. Like, on nights where it feels like where Del Rosso may have had that stretch of where he struggled. It was Braden Berry's. It was Jaden Bradley.
Yep.
Or on nights where Koa Pete might struggle. It's Mo Kribas. It's Toby Awaka.
Yeah.
It's dudes who, and even Aristotle, where it's just the bench is just so deep that you can't just prepare for 1 or 2 dudes on our team.
Right.
You have to figure out how to stop everybody. And I'm a true believer in the saying that true people that are good anywhere are comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yep, that's right. And this is going to be an uncomfortable situation tonight. There's no question about that.
We are heading into one of the best college basketball environments in the country.
Right.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kansas is going to be one of the best college basketball environments in the country.
No.
But
question.
guess where else we've been this year? UConn.
And BYU.
Yep. UCLA.
Yep.
We played we played Florida in what they call Tucson North.
Yeah.
But
the two you can stop the defense rests its case at UConn and BYU. I mean, those are 2 of the toughest places to go get a win.
Yeah,
no question.
And what did we do? And even in the BYU game where it kind of felt like towards the end the refs were trying to do things for them, but that's neither here nor there. When the boys needed to get down in the mud and stick to their guns, what did they do? Braden Berry comes up with a huge block that seals it against BYU.
Right.
And they come up with a huge stop at the end of that UConn game to stop them from hitting that 3. So it's just they know how to be in these hostile environments and figure it out.
Well, you mentioned the big stop, and the numbers suggest that you should be expecting something like that to happen tonight because Arizona is number 1 in the Big 12 in opponents' field goal percentage. Opponents have a field goal percentage of 38.1% this year. That is astronomically low. When you think about the standard field goal where you say, did they shoot the ball well? They're not. It's usually about 50%. 38% is what opponents are shooting in the Big 12. And they're first by a clear margin. So that's why, Hazi, you say, well, what do stats matter? When you're up by a point or 3 points and there's 10 seconds left, That matters when your field goal percentage from opponents is 38%. That tells me there's a 62% chance you're going to get a stop.
And that goes back to what I was talking about before with the rebounding.
Yep.
Because
which they're number one in that too.
We're number one in the country in rebounding, but if you watch our games, there's not a lot of second chance opportunities.
Nope.
If you go back to Oklahoma State last week, one of the biggest things that their coach had talked about in the press conference, they just did not give them a second chance.
No. And that's how Oklahoma State plays. They actually are a big team that plays in the paint. Horrible matchup against Arizona because that's Arizona's strength. So you have a decent, you're okay in the paint on the scale of college basketball, but for your team, you're very good at it. Against Arizona, who also has the same strength, they had no chance, and they got absolutely blown out. Now, Arizona has out-rebounded every opponent this season. There's not one game where they've been out-rebounded. And when you couple the fact that their opponents are shooting a low field goal percentage, that means, I hate to break it to you for people who aren't as intuitive, if you're shooting a low field goal percentage, there's a lot of rebounds because a lot of balls aren't going through the net. They're hitting the rim or the backboard or whatever it may be. So when you shoot the ball poorly, there's lots of rebounds to be had, and Arizona is still out-rebounding every team they play. That's very impressive. Their rebound margin this season is plus 11.8. And the final point I want to make, just to talk about things on both sides, but really the dominance that they have in the paint, and this is unbelievable that this is still true. Arizona this year, and their free throw shooting is not that good percentage-wise. Keep that in mind. Arizona's made 198 free throws this year. That's how many they've made, not how many they've attempted. Their opponents have attempted 160. Attempted.
160.
So Arizona is attempting almost on like a 3-to-2 ratio free throws per game. They get to the line way more, which it's free throws. They're free points. So they've got an advantage on the glass, at the stripe, on defense. It's that's why I say I don't really care who they're playing. I don't really care where they're playing. A lot has to go wrong for them to lose.
And it speaks to the discipline of this team. Because not only because again, when your opponent is averaging less free throws attempted than you make in a year, you're doing something right.
Right.
But not only that, they cause turnovers without fouling. And then they don't turn the ball back over. We don't give you a lot of chances to turn us over. And you'd think, a team that plays a lot of, smash mouth getting to the paint would have a lot more turnovers than we do.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe we average 6 less turnovers a game than our opponents.
Something like that.
Which to me speaks volumes about the discipline of this team. And again, that's why I say you wouldn't think so many of these boys are freshmen, second years, maybe besides Bradley and Del Rosso, because the way they play is just so disciplined. It's so organized that you're just like, wow, these guys are college freshmen. But it also speaks to just like how much effort and how much determination that they put into every game. So again, I just don't think that Kansas has what it takes tonight to hang with us, simply because I feel like we are the more disciplined team than they are.
Now, the one player who seems to travel everywhere and is a key piece on any team that aspires to win a championship, in my view, is Ivan Karchenkov. We could talk about Bradley as the point guard. We could talk about Burries, who's now the team's leader in points per game or points average, whatever you want to slice it. Ivan Karchenkov, jack of all trades, versatile, all over the court, like I said, 9.9 points per game this year. He's almost 55% from the field. And his assist-to-turnover ratio is exactly 2-to-1, 22-to-11.
And I was actually talking about this with someone else the other day.
And he's a great rebounder and defender.
My hot take with Karchenkov is he's just like Alex Caruso.
Yeah.
In the fact that not everything he does shows up on a stat sheet.
No, it doesn't.
When he's diving for those loose balls, when he's fighting for those rebounds, when Karchenkov is doing everything, including like hyping up the McHale crowd, to simply change the momentum in the favor of Arizona, it's huge. And you need guys like that on your team. And not only that, guys who just love to be on this team. Like he said it multiple times. I love McHale. He loves it at McHale.
Well, how could you not?
And so he's going out there and he's diving for loose balls. He's getting in those other guys' faces. He's hyping up the crowd. He's getting those tough rebounds that you wouldn't think somebody of his size could get, especially as a guard. So to me, my NBA comparison of him was Alex Caruso.
I have one too, and I've said this a couple times. He reminds me of Josh Hart a little bit. You like that one too?
I love that one.
Okay. Well, and that's what I thought. Honestly, I thought that the first game I saw him play in Vegas against Florida, I said, he's kind of got some Josh Hart to him. He's all over the floor. He's very gritty. Not a great scorer, but he's going to get his. He's going to get to 10 a game or whatever it may be. rebounding a lot, plays, I think, bigger than he is. To me, there's quite a few comparisons. The players to keep an eye on Kansas. Badunga is going to be the big guy. He's almost 7 feet tall, 6'10", from Congo, and his numbers are really impressive this year, averaging almost 15 points per game, 9 rebounds per game. What you would expect for one of those, big-time stars, big-body player. Arizona's going to have answers. They've got Krivas, Owaka, and you have to expect that Pete and Karchenkov will be allowing him to feel their presence as well. And the guard play between Peterson and White is really strong too, but Peterson's the big ticket there, averaging almost 21 points per year, and he is only a freshman. So there's some young talent, and Badunga's a sophomore. So there's young talent all over the floor. This is the kind of matchup that is really exciting to watch, and we're certainly looking forward to it. I'm going to say this. I'm going to give you a score out there. I think Arizona has I think it's a close game at the half. I think they're up something like 37-35, and I think Arizona ends up winning this game. Let's go 79-71. I think that they do end up playing really strong defense, especially in the second half. And they get into these games like we've seen, where in the second half they go from up about 6 to up 10, back and forth, in that kind of matter. Maybe Kansas gets it as close as 2 or 3, but I think ultimately 79-71 is where I'm going to settle. You can give a score or not, up to you.
So my halftime score, and I'm going to give us a little bit more of a cushion at the half.
All right.
I'm going to say 38-32.
Okay.
Just because I feel like heading into half, we always go on these little runs that do propel us, like give us a little bit of a margin heading into the second half. I see the game finishing a little bit closer at 87-84.
Okay. So you've got it kind of the inverse. You think halftime Arizona's in good shape, Kansas gets close to the end. I've got the opposite of that, but nonetheless, it seems like we're both anticipating a really good game. And I think the second toughest game of the year for Arizona, I want to close with this. They go to Houston on the 21st. That's next Saturday. I think that'll be the hardest game of the year. This is right there with it at Kansas. So if they are going to lose, if they're not going to go undefeated, I don't think they'll be undefeated. I think they probably lose one game. This is probably the one. And maybe 2. I think the worst case scenario, they're a 2-loss team. 1 loss is my prediction, and I think it's at Houston.
And I guess we'll end with this one.
Yep.
The take that I had, or the take that I keep hearing, is that they need to lose to let the pressure get.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't talk about that. We got to talk about that. We'll do it quick.
So
I think that's not true.
I also believe that that's not true.
Okay.
Because no matter what, guess what? Even if we lose one, we're still the number 1 team in the country.
Right.
I'm sorry, we still have the most quad 1 wins. We still are going to be the number 1 team in the country.
There's 2 things. I have 2 reasons. One is there's a real value to being the number 1 overall seed because they'll be playing geographically close to Arizona, and they will have a home crowd in San Diego and San Jose, which will be those will be their 2 cities.
Right.
So if they're playing in California, people who aren't that familiar with the University of Arizona, there's a lot of alum in the state of California. A big number. So if they're playing in San Jose and San Diego, you better believe is going to be red and blue in those 2 cities. So there's a value for that. The second thing is, let's say they're in the Final Four or the national championship game, and the storyline is, it's hard to go undefeated, never happens, blah, 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 blah. You don't think the national championship game is enough pressure by itself? You really think it makes a difference to these players that they're going to go undefeated?
Right.
They are under tremendous pressure in that game if they're 30-7. It doesn't matter.
And that's also my thing, because my biggest thing is this.
Yeah.
We're about to run this gauntlet. Everybody has now called our next, I think, 5 to 6 games the gauntlet.
Yes, it is.
Because you look
and they're
at
right. I mean, they're right.
All the opponents are ranked.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are, I think 4 out of the 6 are on the road. And then Texas Tech comes here with college game day.
Yep, that's Saturday.
BYU comes back here. Kansas comes
Iowa State's coming here.
Iowa State's coming here. We have to go to Houston. I don't know if y'all noticed, Houston hasn't lost a Big 12 game at home.
No, and neither has Kansas.
And neither has Kansas. So
something's got to give, because Arizona's undefeated, right?
And yes, there's the pressure of the undefeated schedule. Sure, you can make that the
I think that's a media thing. I don't think that's a real issue in the building.
Because nobody in the building cares.
Nope.
They tell you to play every game as if it's game 1.
Yep.
So to me, I think we got to get rid of that tape.
I think there's a lot of pressure to win the national championship, regardless of if you're undefeated or not. But I think they're built for it. I really do. Here's the other thing. You're telling me you don't want your team to go undefeated and be able to have that the rest of your life? It's what I call, there's one more term, closing thought. This is a preemptive cope. When they lose, you can preemptively cope and prepare yourself and say, oh, well, I wanted them to lose anyway. I'm happy. And then if they win, you're happy. So no matter what, you're creating a win-win for yourself. Just be a real sports fan. Be happy if they win. Be sad if they lose. That's the way it's supposed to be. Don't ruin it. That's all I have for you. Hazi, thanks so much for coming on.
No problem. Thank
All right,
you for
we'll
having
see
me.
you on Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning local time for the rundown. Thanks so much for listening.